middle class in Cincinnati, in our region, frankly, not just the city proper, but the region, and headquartered here in the city, in a comprehensive manner that has never been attempted before. Not just in Cincinnati, but I don't believe anywhere in the country. And let me give a little historical perspective, if you don't mind. This city is growing. After 70 years of population decline, it is growing again. Over the last 10 years, the poverty rate of Cincinnati has gone down by 34%. The poverty rate of the state has gone down by 22%. So we have reduced poverty 50% faster than the state of Ohio. It was recently reported that more people moved to Cincinnati than Columbus for the first time since they recorded that data. So things are getting better. Now, they're not perfect, and there are huge inequities, but they're moving in the right direction. Why is that? How'd that happen? Well, I've been involved now in public life for quite some time, and I've lived my whole life here, so I was aware of things even before I got in public life. And we as a community had a major inflection point in 2001, after Timothy Thomas and everything that came after. And this community decided to do some things differently. And in my opinion, that has led to our comeback. There are many things, and these aren't the only things, but the three big things that came out of 2001 were, most importantly, the collaborative agreement, which changed police community relations, and Cincinnati is considered a role model for the country. And let's not forget that the Black United Front, Iris Foley, Damon Lynch, others, all those folks who were advocating deserve credit for pushing the city. And I'm proud to say that the city agreed to make changes, and I was part of that. And now it's a national role model. In fact, after George Floyd last year, I was asked to help with the U.S. Conference of Mayors to write a report for the whole country based on the Cincinnati experience. Second, 3CDC and the revitalization of downtown over the Rhine. There's no doubt that wouldn't have happened had 2001 not happened. 3, the Minority Business Accelerator, and Darrin is here, and it's best in class. And the national reporting that came out of the Chamber of Commerce that's been validated by national reporting, that right now Cincinnati already has the second most African-American owned businesses which gross $1 million a year on a per capita basis in the country. Only Atlanta has more. And we're neck and neck with Atlanta. And Atlanta, having historic black college headquarters of the country, has some advantages that they've been taking advantage of for a long time, since Maynard Jackson in the 70s, Andrew Young as mayor. They've done a lot of good things. My point is, we're at their heels without having that same historically black college history that they have. And so those three things, in my opinion, were the predicate to Cincinnati's comeback. And if we hadn't done more if we hadn't improved police community relations, we would not have cleaned up the city and started to see repopulation. Well, the last year has been an inflection point for the whole country, both with the pandemic and with George Floyd. And right now we have the attention of the business community, of the nonprofit sector, of the faith leaders, and of course, elected officials. And my question has been all year, what will they say 20 years from now that we did at this inflection point? As I mentioned, we can say 20 years ago we did 3CDC, we did the collaborative, and we did the MBA. What are we going to do now? Well, one of the things, and in fact I think the biggest thing I'm hoping that we can do is this, Ascend Cincy, which is to really build a sustainable and growing black middle class in Cincinnati. We have some very successful African American owned businesses in Cincinnati, and it's time to fill in the middle class. The Urban League just 5 years ago wrote State of Black Cincinnati, reporting recently that 30% of black-owned micro enterprise businesses have gone out of business because of the pandemic. This is a hole that we haven't filled properly to live up to our potential as a community. And so I'm happy to say that Eric Kearney of the African American Chamber, thank you for hosting us. Eddie Cohen of the Urban League, who is here, Darrin, Redus, have written this proposal that I wholeheartedly endorse. And I'm suggesting that City Council put $5 million in as a beginning. And I'm happy to report that Procter & Gamble, Damon Jones, has been working with us, and Procter & Gamble is going to work with us to get to a point where the business community is going to help us fill out this $40 million and build out this Ascend Cincy. What is it specifically? We'll get into details, but double the number of businesses in 5 years that gross $1 million a year, but equally important, sustain the 2,000 to 3,000 micro enterprises that are 150,000 or less, so that they don't go out of business when a pandemic hits, and they can grow to middle class businesses that generate $300,000 to $400,000 to $500,000 a year. That is the vision, and I am proud to stand and follow the lead of Eric and Eddie and Darrin. And with no further ado, I'd like to ask our host, Eric Kearney, the president of the African American Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, bigger applause. Let's go. Let's go. So this is very exciting, not only because it's our board chair, Jason Dunn's birthday, but this is exciting because this is going to be transformative in Cincinnati. And so I want you to remember the 3 E's. This is an exciting commitment and exciting leadership by our mayor, John Cranley, to transform our city. This adds energy to the ecosystem of Cincinnati. It brings together 3 great organizations that have history and understanding of black businesses, from those who are just starting all the way to those who have achieved up to $500 million in revenue. It also will improve families, neighborhoods, and communities, because when business owners thrive, communities thrive, and neighborhoods thrive. The 3rd E is expand. The African American Chamber with UC's Economic Center did a study earlier this year where we found that black-owned businesses provide $1.44 billion of economic impact in the greater Cincinnati area. This initiative, Ascend Cincy, will expand those businesses and take that number of 2,000, which Mayor Cranley just mentioned, and double it. So just imagine that $1.44 billion becoming $2.88 billion or more in just 5 years. Now, to add even more energy to this great announcement, I introduce you to Eddie Cohen of the Urban League of Greater Southwestern Ohio.
Another E.
Another E.
Like
It's the 4th E.
Another E. I'll try to mimic Eric's energy here. Good afternoon, everyone. Eddie Cohen. Honored to be president and CEO of Urban League of Greater Southwestern Ohio. What an opportunity to really engage in transformative work, right? And although that Eric, Darrin, and myself have worked on this proposal, I have to give a shout out to our mayor, Mayor Cranley, who was really visionary and really bought into this work. So thank you. Let's give him a round of applause for that. And joined here I have Sheila Mixon, who's my Vice President of Business Development and Entrepreneurship. One of our partners, Willie Hill, who runs the Greater Cincinnati Micro Enterprise Institute. When you think about these three organizations, we serve 1,600 businesses a year. The Chamber serves well over 700 businesses a year. The Minority Business Accelerator, well over 70 to 100. But the reach of how many we touch in this county, there's about 11,000 businesses here. We are over the moon excited when we think about the pipelines. Let's talk about some numbers here. From 2012 to 2017, we had a 3% growth in white businesses. In the same period, we had a decrease in black businesses because 95% of black businesses are solopreneurs, sole proprietorships, not employed outside of the home. Now, we have done incredible work. As you heard from the mayor, we are number 2 when you think about black businesses that are over $1 million. That is incredible. Number 4 per capita when you think about the number of black-owned businesses by sales that are employee-led businesses that have actual employers. So what we wanted to do is say, how do we complete this? We're a civil rights organization, and we understand the importance of linking economic mobility to social justice. They're related when you talk about opportunity and access for people. So we are just humbled and thrilled to work with the Chamber and with the NBA for this initiative, and under the leadership of Mayor Cranley to really support this work. We are thrilled about the possibilities of what will happen. We also house the Small Business Development Center of Hamilton County at the Urban League. So there's so much synergistic energy right now for those micro enterprises. When you think about the businesses that gross under 150K, and you think about entire generations of businesses that were impacted by the pandemic, if we really want to create the Metro Cincinnati region where we all belong and live, it takes bold leadership, it takes bold initiatives and bold efforts. So I am going to pass it to my good friend Darrin Redus to talk a little bit about the NBA and their role here. Thank you very much.
I would do my best to keep the energy flowing here. Sadly, I don't bring an E. I do bring a D. And so, Darrin Redus, I serve as Senior Vice President at the Cincinnati USA Regional Chamber and Executive Director of its Minority Business Accelerator. I too want to just wholeheartedly express my enthusiasm and appreciation for all that's happening here. I too want to give a huge shout out to Mayor Cranley. And I will tell you all, I am about 5 years into the region. I relocated here about 5 years ago, and there was already a spirit of collaboration amongst the minority serving organizations, some of which the mayor spoke to. And so when you are perhaps from here, you don't always appreciate all the good things that are frankly already here. What we're talking about now is building on what was already a pretty strong foundation, and the mayor already mentioned where we rank nationally in certain categories, to truly become like the national epicenter of minority business development, which is super exciting. And so that is not just some theoretical, whimsical sort of aspiration. That is very doable. We have very specific plans that we're working out to make that happen. And I would tell you, one of the things that we're super excited about at the Accelerator that's just gaining tremendous momentum is actually creating minority businesses through the acquisition of existing businesses in the community without succession plans. Depending on the report that one reads across this nation, there are trillions of dollars in play of mainstream businesses, anywhere from 2 to 50 million in revenue, with an aging business owner, no kids in the company interested in taking it over, et cetera. And how can we position more minority buyers to acquire existing companies and create minority firms instantly upsized, as opposed to everything having to be grown organically from the ground up? So that is super exciting amongst a host of strategies that we're working through. So I too just could not be more excited about where we are, where we're going, and these are exciting times. Thank you.
Now we're going to hear from some actual business owners. Crystal Kendrick.
Thank you, Mayor Cranley. So my name is Crystal Kendrick. I'm the president of the Voice of Your Customer. We're a marketing consulting firm located here in Cincinnati, actually in Walnut Hills. And first of all, my company has been a true beneficiary of all of the efforts of the African American Chamber, GCMI, the women's initiatives, and all of the initiatives at the Urban League. And one day, with God's grace and with these chambers, I'm going to have a chance to work with the NBA. So we're looking forward to that. We are looking forward to that. But, you know, from my perspective as just, you know, a business owner and really a member of the business community, we are so lucky to have this grant. So thank you, Mayor Cranley, for thinking of us and thinking of this initiative. Because for those of you who don't know, these funds are going to allow local Black-owned businesses that don't have employees to one day get employees. We have so many businesses that are sole proprietors and family owned. But when you get to have employees, that takes your business to a whole nother level. And these funds will help us do that. It will also help these businesses get to $1 million. That is a huge benchmark that can only be done with the support of these organizations and this funding. It will also, as Darrin mentioned, help us to Black businesses to get into initiatives and businesses where they are very capital extensive and they're somewhat prohibitive to Black-owned businesses. So, you know, getting businesses with more employees and getting businesses to $1 million and getting Black-owned businesses into industries that we are not there today is just a win-win for our communities, for our city, and definitely for these